Okay, hello everyone. Today we are doing a starter guide for Armored Core Last Raven. Now, unlike normally where I would start inside the game, there are actually several ways to start Last Raven that'll vastly increase or decrease the difficulty at the start. The main things are, okay, so you are either starting a fresh save, which I don't recommend, B, a save carried over from Armored Core Nexus, which I would only recommend, honestly, if you finish the entirety of Disc 2 and got all of those parts. Or 3, a save from Ninebreaker. The caveat here also being that if you start a fresh save from Ninebreaker, you get every Nexus part from Disc 1 but not Disc 2, as well as several parts that are only in Ninebreaker, which will start you with 80% of the parts in Last Raven. Or you can convert a Nexus save to Ninebreaker first to get all of the Disc 2 parts, but I only recommend that if you're actually if you've purchased every single part, because you can't buy anything once you start Ninebreaker. So if you don't have all of the parts up and ready to go before you transfer over, you're gonna have a very bad time. So just to start, let's go get a session of Ninebreaker started. Add the turbo there, get this going. We're gonna start a new game. Just gonna show you how easy the process is to start with most of your shop open. That was the wrong button. That was also the wrong button. See, this is what you get for rushing people. Oh. Just name it. I'm gonna skip that opening cutscene because we don't need that. Again, you don't have to play Ninebreaker. If you don't want to play Ninebreaker, but you honestly want to just skip to Last Raven, I heavily recommend doing this. Gonna save you a lot of time. Gonna save a lot of frustration. Now we're gonna shut this down. Gonna boot up Last Raven. So something that is not what I meant to do. We're gonna boot up Last Raven. Fresh boot. So I'm gonna do something here that I normally don't do, which is I normally try to just give you the information without saying use this build to come up with your own. But besides the fact that if you're watching this video at this point, you've probably already tried. If you're playing Last Raven, you've already played other games. So if you're still having an issue, you know what the parts do. I've got a guide for stats and everything if you just want that. But you're probably watching this because you're stuck and need help. Maybe you're stuck at the start. Who knows? Maybe not. This guide will still help you. But so I am going to immediately give you a build out of the gate that you can stick a whole bunch of different weapons on. Just gonna grab start guide here. So again, the entire point of this is a build you can put basically any weapons you want on, and I am going to give you a list of good starter weapons. Again, I'm not going to give you some ridiculously OP build or anything. The point of this is ease of use. So first for the head, we're going with the Akeda 2 for the reason of it's got the highest ECM resistance, because that will be annoying in some spots, as well as every single radar function and good stats. The chest, we are going with the C83UA, because it has some of the best cooling, it's got hangers, it's got optional slots, the energy's low. It's just overall really good no matter the build. Now for the arms, we are going to go with the Lemur 2. The Lemur 2's a decent midweight arm. has great aiming accuracy, adjust aim time is fine, cooling is good, the defenses are nice, the energy drain weight's low. Legs, we are going with the Cougar 2 for the reason of they are basically better than every midweight leg, with the weight load when tuned of basically a heavyweight leg, while also being faster than basically every medium weight leg. The booster is going to be Vulture 2. Now, you have 3 options to choose for your FCS. If you're going with like a mid or longer range combat style, the Volute 2 is good as long as you aren't using missiles. If you're going to be still not using missiles but want a bigger box for closer range, the F73H is really good for dual wielding weapons. The Manju is the same niche as this one, except it has better missile lock-on time, as well as farther range for the actual missiles. Now, if you're going full-on machine gun, close range everything, which I don't necessarily recommend at the start, the Limpet is good, but notice the range is shit. It's also not good for missiles. Let's just pop the Manju on for now. The generator is going to be the G91. Now, the booster and generator will be this regardless of what you've loaded in. The arms can be changed for the Loris if you have them from the second disc of Nexus. Now, Radiator in this case, we are going with the R92. Again, if you have parts from Nexus Disc 2, go with the Ananda instead. The Ananda looks just like this, but it's a much lower weight, much lower energy drain. It's like half the energy drain. We're only using this because the Ananda does not come to start. Now for the tuning of these parts. The head, as I said, is going entirely ECM. Chest is going entirely weight. So you do not need to tune cooling with this setup, because you don't need to tune cooling. You can go entirely in weight, because A, you can fit more now into the build, and B, also it is leg weight for the legs, and B, because as you can see, this game has got something called underweighting. So if you've got excess weight, you actually get faster. Now for the parts that you can choose from for your actual equipment, hold on, I forgot to tune these. You're doing energy output, even though 300 doesn't seem like a lot because of how the Exus works. This is 10% more energy output, as well as once you actually start putting parts on and guns, it's going to be a lot more than 10%. And then for here, because you don't need cooling, we are doing energy drain to get you basically another 10%, so that there is an extra 20% energy basically. Now, you have several options for the inside. The inside, I would probably recommend for most people, you're just going to be using these Hijiri decoys. If you did type A, insides are now their own button besides having analogs, so you can quickly just pop the decoys when there's missiles coming to help dodge them. If you want some extra damage, the urchins are good size and weight, do a lot of damage, but they're hard to use. But actually, let me just cut straight to the edge window and we can just start doing this here. So basically saying, insides are urchins, which are basically mines. They're hard to use but pack a good punch. They can stop ACs in their track. If you're being chased straight at you, you can drop it. They'll stun and basically shatter their legs, but don't step on them yourself. The missile decoys can be used to attract missiles. Now for the right arm, there is the Shadow Rifle. The Shadow Rifle has great ammo, good damage. Overall, I use it on most of my builds. It's a good for long missions, so just overall general part, it's great. If you need help with a particular AC fight and there's nothing else, the 73 RS Sniper is got low ammo, but it's very hard to dodge and does good damage. If you want a machine gun, I recommend the Pixie 3 for missions because things don't move much, so they're great. You have to be a bit closer for AC fights to get it to work, but it's good. This bazooka still has like 40 bullets, does decent damage, good fire rate, good overall start if you want something heavy. The shotgun, this is the only shotgun that's even remotely like decent until the hidden ones later, but you have to be very close. If you want shotguns, this is what I would recommend, but I honestly wouldn't recommend shotguns. And then last is the Shade Laser Rifle. It's great ammo. This frame here I'm giving you has great energy, so you don't have to worry about spamming it as much as you want. Good fire, like good actual bullet speed. It's just an overall nice weapon. For the left arms, I wouldn't recommend a blade at first because enemies in Last Raven explode when they die, so you're going to be damaging yourself a lot if it's not used right, so just forget it. So there is the left arm gassed assault rifle. I use it again a lot. The Golem sniper rifle, it's a strong offhand, it has low ammo, but the narrow deep lock type shrinks your lockbox a bit. I wouldn't recommend dual snipers, but if you do, use this with the volute for long range, and it's harder for them to get out if you can stay back. The frame I gave you is very fast. Now for left arm, there's the Gatling gun looking machine gun. It's a good offhand. Low overall ammo, but it makes your lockbox bigger, and if you just need to kill something and burn it down, it helps. Again, the shotgun for the left arm, same thing as before. I honestly don't recommend shotguns for someone new. As for back weapons, I would recommend, just to keep your weight down, the starting radar is great for ECM. Gives you a radar with good range to help find things because you're not sure where things are inside the actual mission. You can get a higher ECM radar if you need ECM resistance, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. As for the back weapons to start, because I'm giving you a biped frame, I'm not bothering with the cannons. So there is the starting missile. Very light, easy to fit. You can use it to just pop your extension missiles off over and over, or just for fighting smaller enemies from farther back. The Kinara's the 7-shot micro missiles. It's great for fighting ACs. It hits them very hard, very easy to overheat. If you've loaded a save with Nexus Disc 2 parts, I would then upgrade it to the 9-shot Karuras, along with the Funi extensions, which are micro missile extensions. You fire 14 off for every lock-on. Now the next missile is the dual missiles, the Spartoys. They're good for consistent damage, or just against regular enemies outdoors. You can use with extensions also to constantly fire out just volley after volley to just pin the ACs down and deal damage, especially if you have like a right arm shadow that's not good burst but long damage. These are a great combo because you can just peg ACs with it the whole fight. The triple missile is kind of heavy, but you can use it kind of even without the extensions or with them. It has a lot of ammo, so it's a good long duration missile. The Harpy 2 orbit cannons are great. They are basically, it shoots out laser pods, locks on very quick. It chases the enemy and shoots them, so you can fire and then hide behind cover and they'll keep taking damage. It's not amazing burst damage, but it's very consistent. And then the radar, as I said, might as well have a starting radar. For the extensions, there is the lightweight GAR. It's very good weight, very good energy. So for that point, when you combine it with one of the other ones, it's just good for extra damage there. Good for the duals or the triples. Honestly, even the RM3 is great for triples. As for the other ones, there's the E84 RM2. It fires more at once than the GAR, but less overall ammo, so it's more burst. GAR 2 is same as this, but heavier, but has 2 more shots. RM3 has got a lot of ammo. Highest damage for the missile extensions, and has a lot for just a longer fight. There's the Suigetsu, which are energy anti-missiles, great for taking missiles out that are currently coming at you, but it costs a bit of energy. On the frame it shouldn't matter. The Moraes fire missiles to stop the missiles, not great for big clusters, but a lot of ammo. And the Saisui is an energy pack. You shouldn't really need it for this build, but if you try playing with it or feel you need more for the Shade or some other laser weapon that you're trying, or for just a long distance flight for the Dam mission, you have that, which is good there. I will also be putting a link to this in the video description. Now just back to here, let's just quickly set something up. As I was saying there, we can just, for getting something going, we can try the RM3s. Back we can put the Spartoy dual missiles. which I'm pretty sure I passed. Yep, here it is. Artillery dual missiles. As for the right arm, I mean, let's just use a shadow and a ghast. Now, as for the optional parts, also we can fit hangers on this. So in this case, I will use these starting pistols. Honestly, once you get the HPs are great and a lot better, but you don't have them yet. So for the optional parts, if you're grabbing energy weapons, I would recommend the attack power and reload time, which does cost 5. You don't need the firing consumption for the shade because you're good on this frame. So if you don't have it, I would recommend the first 2 for defense, the stability when taking fire, energy condenser for you just get a bit more. You get 9,000 more energy capacity just in case you need it, but you can sacrifice this one. This helps increase missile lock time, so missiles lock on faster, and this increases the actual lockbox. If you need 5 more to get the energy optionals, you don't necessarily need this, which is 4. You can take off the 1 for the energy. You can take off these 2 if you're not currently using missiles or you're not shrinking the actual lockbox. You have some options. Now for the actual tuning, because we have some extra weight, just to see if we can get this 368 up, I'm going to be dropping this by 1 point. And yeah, it's not going to matter at this point. I used all of the weight, but you don't necessarily have to. The other options can actually... Alright, also this, you have to tune for booster heat. Booster heat ramps up very quick. Once you're actually making your own ACs, something you want to remember is that your cooling here has a formula for your other stuff. You basically take your booster heat and the booster heat and the generator calorific value and add them together, which for here, let's call it 7,200. Double it, which is 14,400. And 14,400 is basically the baseline to not overheat when you're... to not overheat when you're using your own booster. You kind of usually want at least 400 above that for incoming damage. I gave you this one, which is very, very cool, just for the fact that you can now use it. This is also a bit higher cooling than the Nanda as well, once you find that. And this will prevent you from getting overheat and beat up a lot. Also, you don't need these hangers. I'm grabbing the hangers because I want them, just for the extra ammo. If you don't want them, you can take them off, and each one will give you about an extra 9 speed for 18 more speed. Now for how to actually use this, or how just basic movement, we're going to get into this part now. The basic way you want to move in Last Raven's a lot more grounded than the other games. You just want to do some like nice serpentine patterns, or just basically bunny hopping around at just a decent combat range. Notice this one has a lot of energy. You're good. If you need to fly a bit, you'll be perfectly fine with this frame. It's good, it's fast. Don't hard land. Make sure, like this, if you land too hard, you get stunned. So make sure you boost a bit before you land, reduce your speed. And then just you can either circle stuff, you can backpedal away, but make sure you're not just moving in a straight line at a straight speed. You can see I'm kind of basically waving back and forth a bit. Let's go jump into an AC test. Let's just fight an AC.
Main system engaging test mode.
Notice if you just keep a decent range, the lockbox size is good. Keep back. You've got a good anti-missile on this core. Notice you just want to keep very, very mobile. If I just start going in the straight line, while his current rifle sucks, a lot of things will hit you. Now for the actual weapons, you have these. Notice it's just a good, quick burst of missiles. He's dead because I used the rifles for a long period of time. Honestly, the whole point of this game is just staying mobile and staying to your own weapon's combat range while not being in their optimal combat range. So every weapon, based on bullet velocity and everything else, has a certain range that it wants to be in, where this is where it's optimal to hit. You're not too far while not being too close to where you can still dodge. And you don't want to be in their optimal range. So if there's a part of your optimal combat range, which you'll have to play with to figure out for every weapon, that is outside of theirs, that's really where you want to be. Like here, I honestly don't want to be that close. You have a lot of energy on this build to just back out. Notice I'm currently using a bit of energy, so I can just do this. Besides dropping those, fly, like fly a bit less, walk several steps, and you can get the energy up quick. Let's quickly do a mission or two just to show it being used. I don't think I have the money for the VR arena unless I want to sell something. I don't want to do distribution center because showing bolt immediately is going to be stupid. Because I don't expect anyone to do bolt when they're first starting the game. You aren't meant to. Jamming your head against it for 2 hours to finally get it down, honestly, is not worth your time. You can definitely do it. Any of the weapons in the builds that I showed in this can do it. Doesn't necessarily mean it makes sense to ram your head against the wall until you get it. Because you're not even sure what you're doing wrong the whole time. This is a good, just a decent early mission.
Enemy AC sighted. Move out.
You just get through, fight these enemies. Try out the build inside an actual space. Notice that using double rifles is very strong. A lot stronger than most people actually give it credit for. Fighting these guys. But let's change to the missiles. Why not? Just speed through that, because, I mean, the two missions that aren't the distribution center, they're easy. We all know they're easy. But this also gives me a mission against an enemy, I believe an enemy AC now, which is Raging Torrent or Sorcerer. Here you go. We can now show this off on Sundial, opposed to the training EC. He's much easier than Bolt. It's a very good AC to start on to just practice dodging stuff, practice moving, practice shooting, finding the optimal distance for your... Notice there is ECM here, but because of this head, while we have the ECM sound, it doesn't actually affect us. So here we go. This is a decent range where we will be hitting most of our shots while still outside of their range. Notice the defense on this is also very good, so you're not just immediately taking a lot of damage. We can also quickly back up. We have these missiles to fire. Its legs are broken, so it's basically stuck now. It can't move. So that is the other part of this game, is just breaking parts. A really obvious thing is if your enemy is constantly above you, you will be shooting their legs. Once those legs crack, their maneuverability and defensive stability suffer greatly. Once they fully break, it's heavily penalized. Even these rifles can just start stun locking them. If you're often higher than them, it's very easy to basically blow off their head. Blowing the head off basically removes night vision, anti-ECM, hinders the lock-on, and a lot of other stuff. Vertical missiles are great for that. If you're very often to their side, or you've got a blade and you're comfortable using them, you can cut someone's arm off, completely cuts the actual weapon and that side off. The core can be cracked, which will very largely hinder the anti-missile response. Now, you in theory can break the core to kill them, just instantly regardless of AP, but I have never once seen it happen. The only way I can envision it happening is basically a parry blade straight into the back, or if you've already cut their arm off and parry blade the same spot, it might go through because the arm's now gone, but honestly never seen it happen. There is also a part that we can sell now. We now have some decent money. You can sell that. You can also, I believe, sell the parts you brought in. Right, now here is another mission I would recommend avoiding at the start. This is one of the very few missions that has multiple ACs, but just to also show this off there, I'm going to use it to also show that these rifles with this combo, even though it's not the highest burst damage, it has enough ammo to do sustained fights to keep going.
Engaging combat mode.
Take out that AC.
Sorry about the lack of aiming skill currently. I've been doing a lot of freaking Ninebreaker, and just a lot of stuff works slightly different. You're like, notice it's fast. You can, for honestly, for just a lot of ACs, you can just move and outturn them very well with this. Just make sure you're actually landing your shots. Because I know a lot of builds at the start, you're gonna feel that you can't really move a lot, which is why I made this. You have a lot of leeway. Also, once you do find the other radiator that I was talking about, it does also cost a lot less energy to use. So you'll have another 10 to 20% energy as well. Now for this, we can quickly pop out the missiles we have. Keep back because he's a very close range AC. Notice you do boost faster on the ground than you do in the air. So because he is now closed in and you don't want to be close to him, you can just quickly ground boost away to get that distance back. Notice we now have his handgun. The range is too far. So now we can basically go in a bit. Without entering the range of that, we can still shoot him. And it's basically about maintaining the optimal distance to not get hit by their shit while still hitting yours. I know I've been saying the same thing 9 times, but that's honestly what it really comes down to. And this is why having handguns are good. Handguns are actually very strong. I could have probably dropped the rifles at the start and just used handguns on him and he was down. Also, these are also not necessarily the best missiles. They're just easy to use missiles. So at that point, that's honestly all that I have here. You can try experimenting with all of the different weapons. Notice even the times we did get hit, it's very, very sturdy. It's an easy S. Took almost basically 0 damage. Also, just to show one of the other missiles off in the arena really quick. Let's go for the Kinaras. Actually, I can't fit that weight on here, but I can remove the right arm handgun. So, you're going to basically reach the left arm hanger weapon first, because the right arm cycles through the right arm plus all of your backs. See, this is a lot better for enemy ACs. Sorry, I got stuck in the wall. Just back out. Make sure you aren't too close when you're firing these, so that it can group. Or even close up, you'll still fine at that point. Notice they deal a lot of damage very fast but don't last long. The Spartoys are better for the purpose of there are some heavy MTs you want to fight, or you want to be able to keep doing them long. These ones only get 9 shots, opposed to 18 total locks the other one gets. Just for a different weapon setup also, just to change this around. Let's go for the shade. Show the energy rifle. Let's go with the Harpy orbit cannons. Please note, the Harpies do work with the shoulder missiles. But also note, you're basically going to want to fire it in sets of 3. You get 10 shots. May not necessarily want these shoulder missiles, or just because of the weight I can't fit it. Actually, can I take the other handgun off? Yep, still not going to work. So I'm actually going to leave the handgun. Let's see. Or just different lighter missiles. We're going to want these because... Actually, we don't want those. It's not enough. Yep. This will be fine. We don't even need them all. Technically, don't even need extensions to go with it. Now, for the optional change, as I said before, I'm going to be taking off the missile lock because I don't need it. And then I'll be taking these 2 off, and actually, no, I don't want to keep those, so let's actually get rid of this. This is fine. I don't need the extra energy. So, reload time, attack rate, and then there's also actually the cooling's a bit too heavy, so no, I'm just gonna sit out one. I don't need it. You don't necessarily have to use every slot. You also don't need extension missiles with this, depending on how it's used. Notice now you have decent energy. Notice you can basically spam it the whole time. It doesn't matter with this setup. You can just constantly use these energy weapons the whole time, and as long as you move properly, you're good. Also, just to show those missiles here as well, or a good way to use the Harpies. Gonna quickly go and redo that other mission that has the 2 ACs in it.
Main system engaging combat mode.
Take out that AC.
Enemy AC detected.
So, second note, using the radar by the top right is a very easy way to keep track of the enemy. Having the radar on your back also makes it update very often.
Enemy support
off. Now, the other use I was talking about for these is by using them while also hiding so the enemy can't see. Fortunately, this actually is not a great map for it, but a different decent trick for it is also keeping them close to those drones, but he's not someone you want to get close to. This was actually a pretty bad use to show it. Should have honestly burned them on that first guy. Yep, did a lot worse this time. Oh, I'm not gonna cut the footage. I fucked up and I have to eat. And I have to own that. Let me quickly see if I've got a good mission to show a good use for them. Because those were honestly two very shit examples. Hey, what mission do I have next? Yes, this is actually a good one. Notice having the radar on the back, we can see exactly where basically everything is. Won't get randomly surprised by getting shot in the back. Don't necessarily want to hold both weapons down at once. Want to save a bit of our left arm ammo. Helicopters are kind of worthless. Opposed to her, who's spamming her micros on helicopters. Here's where I was saying this is actually pretty useful. And then you can just hide. We can get rid of these helicopters shooting at us. He's kind of stuck inside there, so I have to wait for him to finish there. But no, this isn't AC. His leg parts are now damaged, he gets stunned easier. Fortunately, it's a bit of a thick building, but you know. I fucked that up. The point is, that's basically how you can use it. You can basically constantly pop around walls. I will say I'm not very experienced in it because I don't use it, but it's definitely useful. And I need to stop getting stuck on buildings. So like for him, cannons, you can just use your speed on this and keep back. You also aren't just an entire glass cannon lightweight, so you can take some hits. You can 100% the game with this frame. And here, that's honestly it for now. I'm kind of, besides just playing through the entire game on this, it's really all of the advice that I have. This is a good frame, can do any weapon combo you want on it. Use the speed to keep the distance you want for the weapons that you're using while not being too close to them. Also, back kiting is very useful in this game because if you're going backwards when they're chasing you, they have less time to dodge your bullets than if no one was moving, and you have extra time because the distance is actually getting wider as they're traveling. So if anyone has anything else for this that they want me to go into further, please let me know. Hope you all have a great day.